Toyota arguably has the best built, most reliable engines in the entire world. Toyota achieves this by rarely introducing new engines. Instead, they refine the existing power plants over time to increase efficiency, power, and durability. However, although most of the engines are fairly indestructible, they are beginning to fall behind in efficiency emission standards and power in today's world. This all started to change, however, with the introduction of the 2018 Camry and the very first dynamic force engine. Today we have a huge announcement from Toyota signaling the expansion of these Toyota gasoline engines, and we also get a promising patent on the diesel end of things as well. And in today's video, I will be detailing the dynamic force Toyota engines and what's next for the largest automaker in the world. Second largest? Oh well. Welcome back, Luxurious Sleep. My name is Kirk if you're new, and this channel is dedicated to Japanese autos, so make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. Heading over to the Toyota newsroom, Toyota Alabama steps closer to increased engine production. And this is all a part of their massive $13 billion commitment through 2021. And it's good to see that this will add new jobs in America. And this small little paragraph here is what inspired this video today. So this milestone includes the start of the production for an all-new redesigned 4-cylinder engine and the closing in of the plant's new 150,000 square foot V6 engine assembly line. To give you an idea, I'm like, okay, how big is a freaking football field? A football field is less than 50,000 square feet. So this is over 3 football fields just for the V6 assembly plant. And like I mentioned before, the dynamic force engines is what this introduction of this new engine, all new is what they call it, is all about. So we're gonna head over to our best friend Wikipedia here, and we're gonna dive into all of the dynamic force engines that are currently on the market, and they're all really, really new. So as you can see, they only started in 2017, like I said, with the introduction of the 2018 model year Camry. We see the current layouts, which I think they're gonna stick with. Now, I'm not gonna go over all of the engineering advantages of this engine, but keep in mind, this type of technology achieves a minimum of 40% thermal efficiency. And this engine design was supposed to line up with the new TNGA strategy, which it has done so far perfectly. Hey guys, smash the like button. That will help me out tremendously in the YouTube algorithms, and maybe it'll convince Toyota to bring some diesels and a lot more turbos to these new dynamic force engines to the American market. Starting with the 4-cylinder A25A installed on the XV70 series Camry in June 2017, the V6 V35A, which we see in the Lexus LS 500, and 4-cylinder M20A types have also appeared. October 2019, the 3-cylinder M15A type, which we see in the brand new Yaris, the Yaris Cross as well, or the Yaris or the Yaris, that no one has been able to decide. I had that question, what is it called? Yaris, we call it Yaris here in the States. Maybe it goes back to our pirate days as Americans. Yaris, Yaris, or Yaris. I think Yaris is how most people say it, but hey, I'll let you guys fight that over in the comments. So feel free to pause the video if you want to read about all the common key technologies here in the brand new dynamic force engines. One that sticks out to me is going to be a high compression ratio, a long stroke, which helps with torque. This M15A here, I don't know if we'll ever see it in the United States, but is in a phenomenally efficient engine. You can get like 60 miles per gallon on the brand new Yaris Hybrid. Without electrification, you can get 118 horsepower out of it. And the hybrid setup, it's always reduced in total horsepower, I should say, individual horsepower for the engine to focus on efficiency. You can also find this in the GR Yaris, the RS that was just announced. It's kind of the base version of the car. It has all the looks, but definitely not the go. The G16E, this thing is a monster. This is in the GR Yaris. 3-cylinder, 1.6 liter, outputting 257 to 268 horsepower, and torque even exceeding those numbers with 266 and 273 pound-feet. It produces about 160 horsepower per liter, and it makes the engine as one of the most powerful 3-cylinder automobile engines ever produced. It is also the highest specific output of any Toyota road car engine. Now this one we actually get in America, the M25A. Of course, we see it stateside here in the Corolla. We also see it in the Lexus UX 200, 169 horsepower to 172 horsepower. And they also, of course, have a hybrid variant of it with an even larger compression ratio, achieving 41% thermal efficiency. We see it in the Corolla Hybrid. Of course, the UX 250H or 260H in China, and then the CHR Hybrid, which we don't see here stateside. Now this is the most common one we see here stateside, A25A. Like I said over and over, it started with the Camry back in 2017. It has a little over 200 horsepower and slightly less torque with 182 to 186 foot-pounds. You see it in the Camry, the Avalon, the RAV4, the ES in China. That's the ES250. Actually, we may see it here in the States this year, but I'm not gonna go too much into that rumor. The Camry, and then of course you have the hybrid variants of it in the Camry, Avalon, Crown, RAV4 Hybrid, plug-in, Prime, the Harrier / Venza, the Highlander, the Sienna now has it, and the Lexus 300H. And last but not least is the V35A FTS, which is a 3.4 liter V6 that we see in the LS500. It has 416 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque. And I believe that this V35A is going to be produced here stateside and that massive 3 football field size V6 assembly line. What vehicles will we see that Dynamic Force Turbo V6 in? Well, of course, if you haven't seen my new Tundra video, which I talk about the hybrid power plants as well as the turbo power plants in there, I really do think that the V35A is going to come to America. They could also have an FX version of the V35A, which is going to be a hybrid. And then they could also have a non-hybrid variant and a non-turbo variant that we could see that engine replace the 2GR lineup that has been in every single Lexus and Toyota for the last 20 years, I feel like, with the 2GR series. And that engine just was announced that it was going to hold over for the 2021 IS, and a lot of people were disappointed because like, oh gosh, we've seen this engine for the past since 2007 on that car. We're ready for something new, we're ready for more power, ready for just some excitement. Yes, it's reliable, it's durable, but I'm beating a dead horse at this point. What about this 4-cylinder that they're gearing up for down in Alabama? It's supposed to be all new, completely redesigned 4-cylinder. Well, of course it's going to be dynamic force. That's the trend right now. It's not going to be a 2.5 liter. They already have the A25A. I honestly think it could be a couple things. It could be a smaller one, let's say a 1.8 liter. I don't believe the new Prius has a dynamic force engine quite yet. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it does. It would be nice to see a 1.8 liter dynamic force engine be produced in that plant, but more excitingly, I think we're going to see some turbo power plants. If you can hear my babies crying, just deal with it. That's my life. You guys have to deal with it as well as a part of the luxurious fleet. Why do I think it's going to be turbo? Well, not only is that the entire trend of the auto industry right now is to downsize and turbo 4-cylinders, they need an engine to replace the 8AR FTS in the Lexus NX. I believe the Lexus NX is the only vehicle in the entire Toyota Lexus lineup at this point, since they discontinued that engine with the new Venza / Harrier. That it was in the 3rd generation Harrier. But the new NX needs a new engine, a more efficient engine, a more powerful engine, and it needs to be a dynamic force engine. The rumors are that it's a 2.4 liter twin turbo or single turbo. I'm sure they could do both, and that will produce minimum 300 horsepower and over 300, probably 325 pound-feet of torque for the new NX. The rumor is it's called the NX 350. This also will probably replace maybe the V6s we see in the Tacoma and 4Runner. Why would that engine production be shifted here stateside? Because the NX is currently built in Japan only. Well, the next generation NX will also be produced here in North America in the Canadian plant alongside of the Lexus RX 350 and 450 hybrid. So for them to be able to source that engine from America, Alabama, put it on a train or something to get it up to Ontario, that will save them a lot of costs in shipping these NXs and their engines, of course, from Japan. But this 2.4 liter turbo could permeate the entire Lexus lineup, probably first and maybe eventually to the Toyota lineup. That's yet to be seen. But I definitely could see it replacing the V6 in the RX, the V6 in the ES, the V6 in the IS, of course. And I think that's about it, unless they put it also into, let's say, a base version of the LS and to reduce the price point a little bit. But I don't see that one happening here in the States. Could it even make it into the Tundra? That's a possibility as well. Of course, they'll need to increase the power on it, the torque. But this 2.4 liter, I believe, is what they're producing there in Alabama, or will be producing there, alongside maybe a really small 1.8 liter 4-cylinder for small, more economical vehicles and hybrids here in the States. Now, what about the diesel? Because I gave you a little tip off on the diesel in the very beginning of this video. You have some exciting stuff, so let's head on over to the drive. Toyota patent suggests a high compression diesel engine may be in the works. The Fastlane truck was the first one to put this out, and this patent was filed late last year and appears to describe a high compression engine, one that might even run on diesel fuel. The patent application became public at the start of July, showing some potential benefits of the high compression tech. One of the upsides listed is a suppression of smoke and improvement of ignitability, which should help reduce nitrogen oxide emissions, and it could even eliminate the need for particulate filters and diesel exhaust fluid, which would bring down costs. It would bring down the complexity of these new diesels, increase power and efficiency, and reduce emissions. This sounds like the perfect diesel engine. Now you might be thinking, Kirk, Toyota doesn't have any diesels in America, and you're right. And maybe in their Hino trucks or something like that. But their diesels permeate the rest of the world. Maybe not so much in Europe anymore, but definitely Eastern Europe, Asia, Africa, Middle East, etc. They make outstanding diesels. They make tons of inline fours. They just updated one of them for the new Fortuner and Hilux. They had even an inline 5 diesel at one point in time. They still have a few inline 6s in the works. And then they still make the V8, the 1VD FTV turbo diesel, which is the engine that I wish we had in the Tacoma, the Tacoma for sure, but the Tundra and the Lexus LX here stateside. The LX actually gets it in other markets around the world, but that thing is a monster. It's a tree stump pulling machine. Also, earlier this year, I think it was in February or March, Toyota trademarked iForce Max. Now, I made some assumptions at the time. I'm like, well, maybe it's talking about the twin turbo V6 I just talked about earlier in this video, the gasoline variant. Maybe not. What if it's a twin turbo inline 6 or V6 diesel that has this new really clean diesel engine? How do they do it? Well, to make things simple, they get rid of the current fuel injection process, and they replace it with a Bunsen burner type spray that burns much, much cleaner, and there's hardly any soot that is involved, and therefore very little nitrogen oxide that goes with it. So if they can line up this diesel to coincide the rumored announcement of, or I should say availability of the Tundra in late 2021 based off the dealer leak we got this year, I mean, we could see diesels coming into the Toyota lineup within a year or so from now. That would be super, super exciting if the iForce Max happens to be this clean diesel. Well guys, what are you most excited for? This new lineup of Dynamic Force 4-cylinders? Maybe Dynamic Force turbo V6s for the entire truck lineup, as well as maybe some higher performance Lexus models. And of course, I forgot to mention the turbo 2.4 liter that's gonna permeate the Lexus lineup possibly in the near future as well. Or are you more excited for a potential lineup of diesel engines coming to America for our trucks and more work-focused SUVs? It's an exciting time to be an enthusiast and fan of Toyota because they have so much changing in their lineup. With all their new models they have coming out, these Dynamic Force engines are kind of behind the curtains doing the work for those TNGA platforms. But I cannot wait to see you guys in the comments like always. If you want to head over to my Amazon page where you can find my model cars, that would be pretty cool. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.